Hello and welcome back to another Doctor Who Big Finish video. In today's Doctor Who Big Finish video, I'll be looking at the first story from the 2020 monthly range, and that is The Dark Universe, written by Guy Adams. And it's quite an exciting one because we see the 7th Doctor reunite with Ace, but an older Ace. And I will say this, 2020 does seem to be the year of Ace. Obviously we've had the release of season 26 on Blu-ray, we've had the release of this, and of course Sophie Aldred has written At Childhood End, where we see the 13th Doctor meet Ace, which is a really good book. And I would like to do a video on it in the future because, yeah, I think it deserves a video on its own. It deserves a video talking about it because it is a really good book. So without further ado, let's look at the presentation for this CD, and then we'll go on to my thoughts on the actual story. So taking a look at the cover art, we have the Doctor Who logo there, we've got the tree, and then this nice sort of fire background there, the 11, Gallifrey, Ace, Earth, and then this nice sort of jungle sort of cover on the front, and then the 7th Doctor there, which is all very nice. I really do like the cover, really striking cover. The side of the release and the back of the release. If you want to know more about the story, then do feel free to pause. And then we have the cast list and the total running time being 120 minutes. Taking a look at the leaflet now, we have production credits, advertisement for Doctor Who magazine, a cast photo there, and the advertisement for the next instalment in the main range, the Psychic Circus, which is out now actually. And then we have the reversible cover if you want the 7th Doctor logo. And the disc art is exactly the same for both discs. The Dark Universe. For the most part, the main range goes under the radar. It doesn't get the hype of other releases, but the Dark Universe is one of the main range stories what gets people talking, with the 7th Doctor reuniting with an older Ace, to get the casual Big Finish buyers interested. And for the die-hard Big Finish listeners, we finally get to hear the showdown between the 7th Doctor and the 11. Now, if you haven't experienced the character of the 11, then you'll be absolutely fine listening to this, as his character gets explained, so you shouldn't feel alienated. Now, I'm going to be honest, I thought that if Big Finish were ever going to do the 7th Doctor versus the 11, it would be in a box set, because that's kind of the traditional Big Finish format. So it's really nice and refreshing to have this story in the main range. It really does spark a bit of interest in the main range, which is all very good. So the release itself got a very much a mixed response. Some people really enjoyed the story, others found it rather underwhelming. So where do I stand? Well, for the most part, I really did enjoy this story. I think that it was a really interesting story, had some really interesting themes, and had a huge scale and scope to the story. So before we go to the grand, huge scale stuff, we have to lay down the playing field. So this part is very much setting all the concepts up, but we do have an action-packed start with the 11 stealing something from Gallifrey. So you're wondering, what has the 11 stolen, and why is Ace working with the 11? So you're definitely intrigued. Now, the Doctor has some rather good little monologues within this sort of half of the story, which reminds me very much of how he is in Master when he's talking to the assassin character. But for the most part, this is a Doctor-like sort of episode, and I guess part 2 is sort of the same as well, with him appearing with little monologues and appearing in flashbacks. Now, the flashbacks are excellent, with the sound design, with sort of having this sort of distorted Big Ben chime. It's brilliant. So that explains how the 11 met Ace, and when the Doctor reunited with Ace, and we expand on Ace's company, a charitable Earth, and this explains why the 11 needs Ace's help, because we see them going on an expedition in the jungle to find Hell, which is actually this giant tree, which is magical, as it has this dark gateway. Now, the idea of the tree, I think, is very Douglas Adams. It just feels very Douglas Adams-y, that sort of idea of this sort of magical giant tree, which is really nice. I think it's quite Douglas Adams, and I really do like that. Now we have this sort of tribe guarding the tree, but it isn't just normal jungle tribe as you would expect. We have futuristic weapons, and we learn how the tree links to Gallifrey, and we have a twist involving the Doctor and leading to a rather intriguing cliffhanger. Part 2, so this is when the Doctor slowly starts to become more involved in the story, with you wondering what the Doctor is plotting and what game is the Doctor playing. But the Doctor doesn't really come into the story till the end, as he's very much letting things unfold, and we have a great scene between the Doctor and Ace, which is full of friction, which leads to some rather touching moments, as there's some sort of deep sorrow with the Doctor, but Ace is full of anger. We expand more on the tribe. The world building continues with us learning about the Dark Gateway, a threshold of something truly evil, with us learning of what lurks on the other side to the gateway, with it being the Dark Citizen, revealed, which is superb. The way Guy Adams reveals the creature is wonderful, with us learning about them, with us exploring other realities and their rise to power, with them being the only species left. So they're like this sort of godlike, they have this sort of godlike vibe to them, which is a perfect monster for the 7th Doctor because he's defeated demigods and all manner of gods. The 7th Doctor, he's just the sort of champion, isn't he, at defeating gods. So we have this rather nice gruesome moment leading to a very dramatic cliffhanger, what makes you want to listen to part 3 straight away. Part 3, now this is where the grand scale comes into it, the 11 in control of half of the universe, and we learn of, since the 11 being in control of the universe for 6 months, how the universe has changed with the Daleks being wiped out and the Cybermen now working with the 11 and the High Council of the Time Lords are in ruin. And we have a casual reference to the Other. If you're familiar with Time Lord lore in society and lung barrel, all that kind of stuff. Now, them referencing the Other, it just seems so random and it's just casually dropped in there and just like, what, you mentioned the Other? It's quite bizarre, but also quite brilliant at the same time. Like, I do appreciate that. Now we have this really brilliant scene between the Doctor and the 11, which is quite brutal, with the Doctor now being the plaything of the 11. And this is when Cardinal Illustra and Rasmus come into the story to help Ace stop all this. You know, and I think the way Illustra describes the Doctor within this is brilliant. You know, if you want to win, you will stand next to the Doctor. Which to me really builds the Doctor up to be this godlike character, because the 7th Doctor, I would probably argue, is the most godlike Doctor. Just because he is that sort of times champion in a way. The Dark Citizen grows in power and we see what they're capable of. It's a very action-packed story with a very traditional cliffhanger. In part 4, we have an interesting resolution to the cliffhanger. We continue to have more references thrown in, like the Heavenly Paradigm, the Quantum Possibility Engine, the Dravins, to name but a few. We have an intense scene between the Doctor and the 11 about morals and how they differ. We expand more on the Dark Citizen with a twist involving them. The Doctor reveals his plan. But I will say this, the story did lose me in the middle. I will say this, the story did kind of lose me in the middle of it. I just kind of felt a bit lost within it. But the story does come full circle with the 11 being locked up, and we do have the scene from Doom Coalition 1 when we first see the 11 with the 7th Doctor in there, so we get a nice little flashback. Well, it's not really a flashback, but we get that scene being used in the Dark Universe, which is rather nice. We have kind of an explosive confrontation ending between the Doctor and Ace, which I have mixed feelings on, because it for me, it doesn't seem to fit the more mature, older Ace. It seems like the character's gone backwards instead of going forwards. You know, I understand why Ace is being, kind of being aggressive towards the Doctor, but it kind of seems a step backwards for Ace as a character. It does seem like she's slipped back into her old ways and not the mature Ace, what this story is trying to build and ground, really. But we do have this nice bit of foreshadowing, foreshadowing with the end of the 7th Doctor, that this is very close to him getting the remains of the Master, which is a really nice way of closing the story, because this does seem like the 7th Doctor's last grand battle, as it were. So yeah, the 7th Doctor, Sylvester McCoy, does a brilliant job. I feel like this story is a perfect balance of the 7th Doctor, with him calculating and manipulating people in the game, with him lurking and waiting to appear when the time is right. But we do have the clown 7th Doctor, as he plays with Fool when the 11 is ruling, so we have a nice sort of comedic nature of the 7th Doctor. And McCoy, is very much going back to when he played the Fool in King Lear. But by the end of it, you do get a sense of the wariness and how tired the 7th Doctor's become. Because this is very much near the end of the 7th Doctor's life. So we've got this nice little scene at the end which really does explore that theme, which I really do like. And I feel like Sylvester McCoy really gets a lot of scale to play with in this story. We get the nice comedic moments, but we have that nice sort of manipulative side, but also that kind of weary traveller vibe to it, because I'm a huge fan of sort of stories involving sort of the late 7th Doctor, sort of TV movie look 7th Doctor, because I really do like exploring that sort of ending of the 7th Doctor, and I feel like this is a good example of this sort of ending to the 7th Doctor. Ace, played by Sophie Aldred, does a brilliant job, as she takes no nonsense from anyone. She's quite sarky and quite cold at times. You can tell that there is a difference in her character as we see how the Doctor changed her as a character. She's more mature, a bit more wiser, but she still falls for the Doctor's tricks. But she does have a lovely speech about who we are and what makes you you. But there is a sort of anger pent up inside of it. There is this sort of inner rage to her character, especially when she's with the Doctor. And I think that Sophie Aldred does a brilliant job bringing all these elements to life. Mark Bonnar, the 11. What can I say? I absolutely love the 11. He does another brilliant job within this. Continues to show how versatile of an actor he is, bringing all these different incarnations to life, with us seeing how disturbing, messed up the 11 is, with him taking advantage of Ace's hatred towards the Doctor. We see how ruthless the 11 is, with him killing anything that moves. He's truly bloodthirsty, and this is probably the 11 at his best, because we see him literally win. And I think that's really interesting to actually have that, to show how messed up the universe would be if the 11 actually did win. So I really do like that, and I think that this is a good example of why the 11 is a great original Big Finish villain, and I think this is a prime example of that. So what are my overall thoughts on Dark Universe? It's an enjoyable cinematic grand scale adventure with us seeing the true force of the 11 and the 7th Doctor at his finest, and seeing a very different Ace with a very interesting concept like the Dark Gateway. And the Dark Citizen, played by Lynn Savensky, brings a chillingly eerie performance with these powerful strange creatures. We learn more about Time Lord Society. The music is a great mix of late 80s Doctor Who music, but have that sort of grand cinematic music to it as well. It's a nice mix of those two together, and the music really does help elevate the grandness of the story even more. But I will say this, part 1 does feel a little bit odd, because it does keep cutting back and forth, and at times it does feel a little bit jarring to listen to, and like I said, part 4 did lose me ever so slightly, and the ending between the 7th Doctor and Ace, like I said, it does seem a little bit out of character for the more mature Ace, but this is you know, Ace 20 years on from when she saw the Doctor, so it does seem a little bit odd, really, in my opinion, to have this sort of Ace go back to a stroppy teenager sort of vibe to it, because you know, the amount of times, you know, Ace has been sort of manipulated by the Doctor, you feel like she would have been a bit more accustomed to it, so it does feel a little bit odd in that sense, that she just keeps falling for the same old trick. So yeah, it does kind of let it down in a way, but the foreshadowing ending of the 7th Doctor kind of makes up for it. But part 2 and part 3 is what makes this story solid for me. I just love, you know, the scale of part 2 and 3, and what I really like is how Guy Adams has structured it, because you would expect the 11 to come into power at the end of episode 3. That'd be episode 3's cliffhanger. The 11 has control of the, you know, half of the universe, but I like that we spend literally a whole episode with the 11 in control, and I really do like that, because we really get to see how high and how dangerous the 11 is, and how high the stakes are, really. So I really do like that, as it really does show the grandness of, you know, the universe is literally burning, and the 7th Doctor can do nothing. You know, there's only a few people who can make a difference, so I really do like that. So yeah, I think that this is a good story. I feel like there are some really good moments to enjoy. There's some nice concepts, like I said, but yeah, I've got minor niggles with it, what do kind of let the story down, in my opinion. But overall, it is positive. I think that it is a good, solid story, and I'm going to give Dark Universe an 8 out of 10. I think that it is a good, solid story. I'm a big fan of sort of late 7th Doctor stories, just because I like that sort of weary god feel to the 7th Doctor. He is that sort of tired traveller, and yeah, and I feel like by the end of this story you really do get the sense that the 7th Doctor is starting to, you know, it is the beginning of the end for the 7th Doctor. This is sort of his last big epic stand, I guess. So yeah, I think that this is a really good story for the 7th Doctor. The 11, fantastic, and it's a nice to have Ace back, to have a different side to Ace explored in the Big Finish catalogue. So yeah, that concludes this video. I hope you have enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. So thank you very much for watching this review, and I'll see you on my next Big Finish review, what could be either the 4th Doctor Adventures Series 9, or it could be Daughter of the Gods. I don't know what it could be. It could be either one of those. So thank you very much for watching this video, and I'll see you next time. So thank you very much, and goodbye.